Texting. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Trail Talk. Boy, I had a hard time saying that. It's been a minute since we've had a Trail Talk. I'm really glad what?
Kicked us off.
It kicked us off.
Wi-Fi.
The Wi-Fi did. We're hard. No, I guess we're not.
I don't think it. Hold on. See if it's just glitching out here.
Yeah. Because if we're live. Hi, sorry.
But we're good.
Oh, and we are live. Thank you, Emery. I'm going to say Emery's name because he's the one who just made us think we weren't live. And so our interview is really getting off to a great start. Okay, again, welcome to Trail Talk. I'm so glad you could join us today. We are here live at the Chisholm Trail Heritage Center in Duncan, Oklahoma. And I see our friend Shelly right there. Yeah, there she is. Hey, Shelly. And we are talking with someone, how long you been around Oklahoma?
Just over a year.
Just over a year. So pretty new to the area. You might be able to pick that up from the way he talks. It sounds a little different from the typical Okie accent.
A little bit.
But we are so glad that you're here, and we have a lot of really great things to talk about. Absolutely. So do you prefer Steve or Steven?
Steve's fine.
Steve's fine. Okay. Steve Dixon.
Yeah.
Steve Dixon. And so you're not from Oklahoma.
No, ma'am.
Tell us a little bit about where you are from. Where'd you grow up?
So I was
like that.
I was born and raised on Long Island, outside New York City. Spent 49 years of my life in and out of Manhattan and around that area. And yeah, lifelong New Yorker. Never thought Oklahoma was in my future.
Right. I mean, did you ever even think about Oklahoma? Oklahoma, I feel like it's not on a lot of people's minds.
I'm gonna self-confess here. I was one of those people that considered it a flyover state. Something you had to get over to get to Dallas or past to get to California.
Right.
But no, I never considered it. And I gotta tell you, I'm very proud to say I have fallen in love with Oklahoma.
Yay.
I really have.
I am an Oklahoma girl through and through. I love this state. We were supposed to move to Houston. Oh, it's been about 12 years ago. And I did not want to go because I didn't want to leave Oklahoma.
Right.
I like being able to walk outside and see the stars at night. I like being able to drive down the road and see as far as I want to see.
Yeah.
There's just so many things I like about being here, and I love it. So I'm so glad that you love Oklahoma.
Both of those things are items that I send pictures of to my friends back home in New York, of roads with no traffic on it, or skies where you can see the stars.
Yes, it's a real thing.
It's a thing. I didn't know there was I never saw the Milky Way until I came to Oklahoma.
Oh my goodness. People, think about that. What if that was your life?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that is so awesome. I love that.
Yeah. And in fact, when we first moved out here, we moved to even what's considered the country, even for Oklahoma. We moved out on 8 Mile. And I would sit on our front porch and watch the cows across the street. And people would ask, what are you doing out there watching? I was fascinated by the cows because I'd never seen them before. And I just found that there's so much beauty in this state that, I don't know, might get overlooked by folks that have grown up with it all the time. You know, like I did a series of paintings. I'm an artist, and I did a series of paintings on the wildflowers that you just find on the side of the road.
Yes.
That y'all might think are weeds. See, I even say y'all now. Which means I've really switched. I've switched teams. I'm an Okie now. But yeah, like even like the little flowers, but the wildlife, the animals, it's fascinating to me for someone that grew up in an urban environment. It's a lot of like, you know, God's gifts to the world that I didn't get to grow up with it. So to me, it's that much more what's the word I'm looking for? Valuable and precious to me.
I love that. Wow, that's awesome. And so we were talking earlier, you went to Penn State. Did you study art?
I did. I've got my bachelor's in fine arts BFA in drawing and painting and graphic design. And then I took that and went on to a career in advertising and marketing in the
I
beauty industry.
read about that, yeah.
Yeah, so I was working for a lot of the big beauty companies,
Mm-hmm,
ironically.
mm-hmm,
And, but still all on the creative side, coming up with creative marketing strategies.
right, right.
And then I got back into painting. I really got back into painting when I moved back, when I finally moved to Oklahoma.
Mhm.
But it's been 20 years of painting. I've never left it.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, though, when you do it as a career, when you're creative as a job, it takes away some of your time that you come home, you don't really want to go to the studio.
Right, right.
But-
I hadn't really thought about that, but I can see where that would
Yeah,
kind of steal some of that enthusiasm, some of that
yeah,
desire
absolutely.
from you.
Yeah.
So when you were a kid, were you a doodler? Were
Oh.
you a drawer?
Yeah, my
What-
folks said that they would just put a box of crayons in front of me and I'd be busy for hours.
Mhm.
This is before you could put a screen in front of the kid. They would just give me a
Right,
piece of paper and crayons and I'd be off to the races, and
wow.
that's been my whole life,
Uh-huh.
It was always my personal time was me and my art.
And it's just in you.
Yeah,
That's what I find when I talk to artists, it's just in them.
yeah, it is.
There's a creativity in you and you find that avenue and then you just go with it.
Very much so. In fact, so many people ask me, how do you do what you do? And I honestly can't explain it.
Mm-hmm,
I finally have learned what it means to have like a God-given talent,
mm-hmm,
because it's a gift that was given to me, and the only thing I could think of now is to share it with everyone
Right.
else.
right. Yeah, and we're really glad that you do that. So when did you ever have like an art teacher or a mentor or someone when you were younger who said, look, Steve, you've got something special?
Yeah,
Tell us a
Yeah,
little bit
sure.
about that. I love
So-
it. It's a way for us to get to know you better.
yeah. So, I'm a pretty big guy, and they had me flagged for football for my whole life.
Mhm.
And when I started growing up, getting junior high and high school, I really started gravitating towards the arts. And everyone was like, well, just stick with football, stick with football. And it was not common for the football player to want to be in the art classes.
Right.
But I had an art teacher, her name was Miss Block, who really said, no, this is a real talent. Like, you got something here. Don't let all the other stuff distract. Don't give up on this just because everyone else wants you to do that.
Mhm.
And she really encouraged me to go to college for art. And I'll tell you, I remember when my dad heard I was going to college for art, for fine arts. He said, well, why on earth did you go on to college for drawing and painting? Like, it was a little bit of a stretch,
Right.
especially since it was like, a lot of the folks were banking on me planning everything around sports. So,
Mhm.
but as we were talking earlier, I was the only rugby player at Penn State that was an art major, for sure.
Right.
Probably to this day still.
Still hold the distinction.
Yeah, yeah. So, but yeah, Miss Block really encouraged me to take my art seriously. And it's interesting, it's hard for a kid. All kids like to draw and create and stuff. We have this creative spark when you're young.
Right.
And somewhere along the line that flame gets put out a little bit,
Mhm.
and you have to keep encouraging kids to stay creative and to explore things,
Right.
and to experiment and to try and to put paintbrushes on canvases, see what happens,
Mhm. Exactly.
I often joke with people that know me. I say, every time I started painting, I convince myself I've forgotten how to paint. Every single time I start, I'm like, I don't know how to do this anymore. This is gonna be terrible. I'm like, oh, I can't believe, and I'll start. And in fact, recently, I called my fiance to come into the studio and I said, Steph, who, by the way, is the reason that I came to Oklahoma. Let's just be clear.
Okay,
It was
okay.
for a girl.
Best reason to
It was
come to
for a girl.
Oklahoma.
I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. This doesn't, she's like, what's wrong with you? So it's funny. It's just like, and then you just got to start going and doing it. And then you don't know where it could lead.
Mhm.
I've learned to trust that process, even with the doubts I have,
Right,
just about every single time.
right.
And
So, in your art career, are there things that you're trying now that are not things that you've done before? Like,
Oh,
are you
yeah.
kind of, I mean, this is one of my favorite things. I love to hear from artists on what they're doing to stretch themselves, because
Right.
everyone I've ever talked to is doing something.
Yeah, I mean, so I was just over at the gallery setting up the final pieces for the show we're having at the Art
CTAC.
Council at CTAC.
Mhm.
And it was interesting looking at all the different styles of work I've done, because that show will probably span 20 years of my career. So specifically coming out here, the subject matter changed dramatically for me.
Oh, right.
Because like I said, I found beauty in the wildflowers on the side of the road, the cows across the street. So the whole Midwest lifestyle has really fascinated me.
Mhm.
Like horses, cattle, all of that has really,
Bison.
yeah,
You've got-
bison, yeah. And honestly, even like the roads, like we were just,
Mhm.
you know, a long flat road, to me, it's beautiful. And I gotta tell you, the sunsets out here
All right.
are like nothing I've ever seen, you know? And I grew up on the water, so we would always see sunsets over the water. I've never seen sunsets over land that were so beautiful.
Mhm.
So a lot of that, what has changed the most for me is the subject matter.
Mhm.
My style has evolved, so to speak.
Mhm.
But my style changed by whatever mood I'm in. Like sometimes I want to do something very serious and very fine and detailed. And sometimes I want to do something very loose and loud and, you know, energetic.
Mhm.
But, you know, I've been painting for, gosh, I have a painting in my studio that I signed and dated from when I was 9 years old.
Wow.
So if you think about
What a
that,
keeper.
I've been painting for 41 years.
Uh-huh.
So over that time, I've got to experiment for a lot of different styles. And I think I'm really blessed that I could just decide, I want to do something a little different and I'll just do it.
Right.
I have I guess the confidence, one would say, to say, I'm just gonna try this and see what happens. So,
Well, I mean, what do you have to lose? It's a canvas,
Right.
right? And who knows, maybe it'll turn out to be something different from what you thought it was gonna be.
right,
But
Oh,
painting a canvas.
yeah, and I'll often paint over canvases
Mhm.
or, you know, there's a couple pieces in the show that I did. Gosh, the one I'm thinking of right now, I did in 2008. And I was looking at it a couple weeks ago and I just refreshed it and changed a couple of things on it and everything, because I just look at it a little differently now. I
Mhm,
notice
right.
things a little differently.
Right.
So, it's funny, like I see it, I'm like, oh, I wanna fix this, I wanna fix that, you know, but I think it's an improvement on it. And that's a very common thing. I mean, people don't realize that there's a lot of like Picassos and Monets, that there's actually paintings underneath them.
Yes.
That they don't realize,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So, yes, like you said, it's just canvases. You can't make
So-
any mistake. Hey, look, I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna self-confess another thing. I'm a huge Bob Ross fan.
Mhm.
Absolutely love Bob Ross. Been watching him since I was a little itty bitty baby.
That's awesome.
I love him. And one of the things he always says is, there's no mistakes.
Right. Happy mistake.
Yeah, it's just a happy mistake and everyone's gonna have a happy little tree and I'm obsessed with Bob Ross. I've loved him my whole life. But there's a lot of great life lessons in there. There's happy little mistakes.
For sure.
So I never just worry about like, oh, am I gonna screw this up?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, so the timing of our interview.
Yeah.
Is not random. You have an art show, you mentioned this a minute ago, opening tomorrow
Yes, ma'am.
at the Chisholm Trail Arts Council,
Yeah.
right here in Duncan.
Yeah.
You guys look it up, it's on Facebook, go to the Arts Council webpage if you haven't seen anything about this. And so you hung your pieces
Yeah.
already. I saw that Darcy had something out
Yep.
there, and we're friends with the Arts Council. We really love them, all the things that they do in our community. Excuse me. And so you said you're an art, are you like full-time artwork now? Is that,
Well,
or that's your career right now? Or-
no, I mean, I guess it's my passion for
Okay.
sure. I have two passions in my life right now. One is helping kids,
Mhm.
and the second is art.
Okay.
You know, we also renovate houses, but I also am a recovery coach. So I coach people that are struggling with addiction, are
Mhm.
struggling with their recovery from addiction. So I'm in recovery myself, and I'm very proud of my recovery.
Mhm.
That allows me to be a peer to folks, so I can have
Mhm.
different conversations with them when they're struggling with
Mhm.
addiction,
Mhm.
because I've been through it, I've made it through.
Exactly.
So that's probably what is my career,
Mhm.
and that is like the main trunk of this tree, and then it branches off into my art. Because
Mhm.
I've dedicated all my art for the rest of my life. All the profits are gonna go to support the nonprofits and charities that support kids. So I'm never gonna
Mhm.
make a dime off of my artwork. Every penny goes to charities.
Mhm.
So my art goes to support that, like the homes and renovations. Our goal at the Second Chance Ranch
Right.
is to open up a sober living, a transitional housing for teens. Because that is like, in the cycle of someone going through recovery, what happens when they come out of a rehabilitation treatment center is the most vital time in that
Right.
timeline. It's
Right.
what's gonna happen next. Okay, they've got clean time, and now they're faced with, do I go home? Do I go back to my old surroundings? Do I go back to the life I had?
And
And
set
you-
myself up for failure.
Right, you can imagine what happens next. It's rinse and repeat. They go home, they get back into the same sort of, situations that got them there in the first place. They get back into trouble, and then they go back in. And unfortunately, Stephanie Morcom has been such a champion in this community to support it. She's opened my eyes to it,
Mhm.
how the process goes, where these kids just eventually hit 18,
Mhm.
still doing the same thing. Now what?
Yeah.
Now they're getting incarcerated. So I have a very serious conversation I usually have with folks that are struggling, where I tell them, one of three things is gonna happen. They're either gonna be listening to me and get recovery, they're gonna be in jail, or they're gonna be dead.
Mhm.
One of those three things will happen.
Mhm.
I'm never wrong.
Right.
So,
Yeah, well, I mean, and it's harsh when you say it that straightforward, but the people that you're having that conversation with are at that point in their lives where they have to have it. There, you can't make it pretty or sound nice
Right.
anymore. It has to be as straightforward as possible.
right, so I'm a trained interventionist, as is my fiance Stephanie,
Mhm.
and often, we don't like to have that harsher conversation, but typically, where I'm coming into play, it's like, these are the bare bones facts.
Right.
This is what's happening, families giving up hope,
Mhm.
they're literally on their last chance.
Mhm.
So, by being in this world of recovery so much, we really identified where the biggest weak link is.
Mhm.
And these kids have nowhere to go
Mhm.
when they get out of treatment.
Mhm.
So our dream is to open up a facility where they could come and live as, there's plenty of sober living for adults, but there's just nothing for kids. There's literally nothing in Oklahoma.
Mhm. Yeah, Oklahoma's kind of, I mean, there are no available spots for even counseling.
Right.
Professional counseling and, mental health needs. And yeah, we are overloaded. We do not have the resources right now. This is the downside of our state that
Right.
we love, but
Well,
the
I think
fact.
it's a rural state, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
as a result of that, you're rich in natural resources,
Right.
poor in man-made resources,
Mhm.
right? Because there's just not that dense of a population,
Mhm.
and I, from coming from New York, we had plenty of human resources.
Mhm.
And then come out here and not be able to find therapists for these kids,
Right.
not finding counselors for them. There's just a shortage.
Mhm.
So we're really committed to making a difference. So my career, as you asked, going back,
Right.
is to make a difference in that,
Right.
however way I can.
Right. So, I think you just described beautifully the vision of the Second Chance Ranch. Did I say that right?
Yep,
That
you got
sounds
that.
weird coming out of my
Second
mouth.
Chance Ranch.
Yeah. No, I'm not gonna say it 5 times fast. Forget it. But this ties in with your art show
Yeah,
because all of your pieces that are in this art show are available for sale.
Yep.
And all, like you said, all of the proceeds, is this like the first big fundraiser then?
Yes.
Essentially for the Second Chance
Yeah,
Ranch?
Yeah, absolutely. This is the first one we're doing for the Second Chance Ranch.
Uh-huh.
You know, we've been getting the word out there. Look, we set lofty goals, but you know,
Dream big.
you have to dream big,
Mhm.
you know, and we really believe that with the right effort and keeping our heart true to what we're gonna do, it will happen. This is our first big effort. Every piece is up for sale. We're doing a silent auction, so you could come in and put a bid in. There's also a buy now number, so like if you're in love with a certain piece and you don't want a chance someone outbidding you, you could just buy it there.
Ooh, I
and-
like that.
And it gets a sold sticker put on it and it's yours. And there's gonna be a silent auction on the closing night, which is February 22nd. We're gonna have a closing reception,
Okay.
February 22nd from 5:30 to 7:30. At that, there'll be two pieces, one of which is here, and another one that's gonna be a surprise. That's going to be a silent auction on that night. So
Only
it's
that
gonna be
night,
only sold that.
Okay.
So a little added incentive for folks that have seen the show to come back and see what else I'm gonna.
It opens tomorrow night, though.
Opens tomorrow night, opening reception is 5:30 to 7:30. It's right behind RNS drug number 1.
Yeah, that little alleyway
That
where
little-
Hodgson Studio is
Yep.
and the little food truck, little yard kind of
Yeah,
thing. and-
Yeah,
Yeah, across from the Freedom Biker Church and
exactly.
all that little area right there, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, just if you've never been to the Arts Council, you just walk in tomorrow night, there will be people going in and out.
Sure.
There's a cat that's usually sitting outside the studio right
Yeah.
there to greet you. And I would highly recommend, they put out all the good stuff at their reception.
Oh, yeah.
It's always, they
Yeah.
got great food, man, last
It's
time
gonna
they
be a little
had
bit of a
like,
Western theme too,
oh.
to complement so I did a whole Western series. So half the show
Okay.
is about 20 pieces that are strictly Western themed, Oklahoma themed.
Mhm.
I would go far as to say like 8 Mile Road theme, because a lot of the inspiration came from my driving. I
Yeah.
mean, people would ask me, where'd you get that idea? I was like, down the street
Yeah.
from my house, you know, or like, you know, what's with the cows? I'm like, they're my neighbors, you know?
Right. I love your fresh eyes and bringing people their attention to these things that maybe, like you said earlier, maybe we have overlooked this.
Right,
Maybe we have, I mean, honestly, my husband and I can't tell you how many times we're driving down the road, we pull off in the ditch to take pictures of the sunset because
yeah.
it's one of our favorite
it's funny.
things. Yeah, and so we are always trying to see things at the wildflowers.
Yeah,
I mean, one of my kids will start calling me and saying, Mom, are the wildflowers blooming yet?
Yeah.
Between Duncan and Marlowe in the ditches, you know?
oh my gosh.
He wants to come down and drive through the wildflowers when they're blooming. So
Oh.
we really love all the things that you were talking about. And
You know, it's one of the Indian paintbrushes,
Mhm.
when we have fields of them out by me. And I would literally stop in my tracks and just watch. It was, you know, and I think about it this way, if folks have never been to New York, the first time they go to New York and see the Empire State Building or see the Statue of Liberty, they're think, oh, wow, that's how I am
Right.
about seeing a pasture of cows.
Yes, yeah, listen, I love it. I grew up out on a farm. My parents have 160 acres. And my favorite place in the world is out there,
Oh,
up
yeah,
on their hill, looking down in their pasture and seeing, you know what, walking down out in the pasture to the pond and
yeah,
the cattle and everything. I mean,
yeah,
I hear
it's,
you.
it's breathtaking.
But I love your fresh eyes. And so I think that people will see these works and it will be familiar to them. You know, it will ring true to their hearts. They'll be like, oh my goodness,
Right.
yes, that's what I see. That's a part of my life, you know?
I think my goal is, someone asked me this recently, my goal with my paintings is to make somebody feel something. And when you think about it that way, what makes a painting good? What makes something beautiful? there's old people have different styles and people have different interpretations
Mhm.
of what they like. Some people like very pretty paintings and some people like very abs. But to me, it's, did you feel something?
Mhm.
And for me, I want you to feel what I felt. I want you to
Mhm.
see what I saw when I got hit with that image. Because what happens with me is I'll see something that's stuck in my head.
Mhm.
And it's gonna be stuck in my head till I paint it.
Uh,
So I have like a Rolodex of images in my head
Right,
that,
yeah.
like, I'll often sit down and just have to paint.
Mhm.
It's like I have to, it's my therapy.
Mhm.
But I can't emphasize enough how important the work is that we're doing. We work really hard to support kids as volunteers. I'm gonna butcher the expression, but you do the work God hands you. Right now, our big goal is to open the housing, the
Right.
ranch.
Right, so
But immediately.
well, let me kind of get us
Yeah.
from the artwork. So all the proceeds from the sale of your art is going into this account to start the ranch. So have you guys, are you an organization? I mean, is it like a 501?
Yeah, we're a 501c3 nonprofit,
Okay,
the Second Chance Ranch Inc.
and so people know if they buy your art, that the money's going into that
Yes.
501c3 account.
Absolutely.
And then, so you start, you're, having events and bringing in the necessary funds.
Mhm.
So what would be the next step? You get the funding that you need to really start. Do you have like land, building, things
That's
like that?
What would
Is
be the
that-
next steps is what we have to
Okay.
do is find a location. We're looking for where would be the greatest fit for us. Completely open-minded to it. What could we do? Now, obviously, we have a vision of what we want. We named it a ranch,
Right,
but it's not our vision. Like, there was truly a calling for me to come back to Oklahoma and do this. So I don't know the exact path it's gonna go down. I just know it's gonna happen.
right.
And it might be, it might not be a ranch per se, it might be a big house, it might be, I mean, ultimately, I would love to have kids working on a ranch, like you say, when the experiences you had growing up, like having kids in recovery, working with animals, it's so huge. Being responsible for something else teaches you how to be responsible for yourself.
Exactly.
And structure is such a big deal when you're new in recovery, you need to have a regimen. So to be able to provide those things, we're gonna figure out how to do it. But the next step is to find a location.
Okay,
That's really where we're at, and then figure out how we're gonna staff it, and how we're gonna do it, how it's gonna fit these kids,
right.
how many kids are we gonna be able to, and then really work on building it from there. But again, in the short term, there's no shortage of kids that need help. So Stephanie and I really
Right.
work to coach younger kids now. We work, coaching kids in groups that are, I hate to say it because I think they're all great kids, but they're labeled at-risk kids that might be in trouble. So
Right.
we've been called upon from the local schools to help them a bit and,
Mhm.
really work to coach them on life skills and really get to the bottom of the misbehaving,
So you mentioned that phrase at risk, and I've been thinking about that because people do make that into a negative label.
Right.
But if you take that down to the very basic meaning, it means that this child is at risk of either being hungry, being homeless, being exposed
Mhm.
to drug and
yeah.
alcohol.
Right, it might be in their household
abuse.
already.
Right, they are
Or-
at risk of something that is going to affect them in a really negative way. That's the negative part. It's the effect on the child. It's not the child themselves.
Right, exactly.
and
It's an effect.
I don't like the way people have taken at risk and made it into that.
Right.
Because it's just kids who need help.
Right,
That's all it is.
yeah,
And
yeah, and there's just, again, the lack of the human resources. They don't see enough of examples, for myself and for Stephanie, we really speak from the heart, from our life's experiences. And from that, we get often hear from the kids themselves, well, you
Right.
understand, because
Yes.
you
Right.
get it, because we share our personal experiences. I'm not gonna share with all the viewers my personal struggles with my
Right.
life, but let's just say I was not always,
Well,
the
you-
greatest kid, and
yeah.
I've been through some things.
Yeah.
And when those, and I talk with the kids that I'm coaching about that, and that kind of makes them lean in a little bit more, because like, wait a second, this is a guy that's gonna understand where I'm coming from, or get it a little bit. And it's more on obviously there's an age difference, but the model is much more peer to peer. It's much, and by peer means a person struggling talking to another person struggling, or a
Right.
person who has struggled talking to someone that is struggling.
Mhm.
And when you look at it that way, anyone could be a peer. We've all
Right.
struggled, we've
Right.
all I always tell everyone, everyone's recovering from something.
Mhm.
It's just some of us get labeled with certain things, as addicts, or,
Right.
but, nobody judges the person that's on Facebook for 12 hours a day. There's other addicts out there, there's other.
You're exactly right.
You know?
And more than anything though, is that the kids have to know that you genuinely care.
Yeah,
I mean, if you love a kid, they know it. If you're faking it, they know it.
right,
And, that being genuine, being open
mhm,
with them and just letting them know, hey, thick or thin,
yeah,
I'm here for you.
yeah,
That builds so much, because sometimes at-risk kids don't have that kind of a person in their life.
so,
They don't have an
Right.
adult who is consistent in caring, consistent in,
Mhm.
the rules, consistent in anything, and they need that, consistent care, that genuine.
Yeah,
love.
one of the things I often think people mistake is caring doesn't mean solving all the problems
Mhm,
and fixing everything,
mhm,
because that's not our job. I can't fix these kids' lives.
mhm,
I could care about them,
mhm,
and I could love them all to death.
mhm.
But that doesn't mean I'm there to bail them out on everything. I'm there to advise them
Yeah.
and to advocate for them,
Mhm,
and to literally coach them
mhm,
on making better decisions, or making them aware of the consequences of their poor decisions. And
Mhm.
that's caring about them. And now, even if they proceed to carry on the way they were and still get into more trouble, it doesn't mean I'm gonna stop caring for them.
Right.
And that's something like, you gotta love them enough to let them make their mistakes,
Mhm.
and it's, I think there's a difference there. It's support. Sometimes support isn't just taking care of everything.
Right.
And sometimes they just need to be heard
Yes.
and have someone listen to them
Mhm. Yeah.
and not judge them.
Yeah. Yes, yeah. Or
Yeah,
be formulating in their mind, this is the parent in me thinking about this. My kids, telling me what they did, and I'm trying to decide which punishment I'm fixing to throw down on them.
right. Where does this land on the meter? How much trouble are you in?
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, genuinely listen. Just let them talk.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Know they're heard. Know that they are heard and seen.
Mhm.
That's another thing. I feel like these at-risk kids, they're at risk of not ever being seen.
True.
They're at risk of disappearing.
Or they feel like
And-
they don't matter already.
Yeah, and it's a real thing.
It
It's
is.
a real thing. Because they're just those kids, they're on the fringe.
Yep,
And it's easy for them to be
Yeah.
overlooked and not ever seen or heard.
we won't allow them to call themselves bad kids,
Good.
because they're
Good.
not, no, and to your point, they're kids. There's no
Mhm.
bad kids. There's
Mhm.
kids that have a pretty lousy environment, or, just seeing things that are,
They shouldn't have to
that
see.
shouldn't have had to at that age,
Mhm.
or didn't have the right way to cope with it. So,
Mhm.
so yeah, I hope that answers what, I know
Right.
it's obvious what we're trying to do.
Yeah,
Now,
well,
how we're
it's
gonna
a
do it,
vision, it's a vision, and the goal for you guys right now probably is to, help other people see that vision and
Right.
come alongside you. You need partners
Right,
in this right now, and that's where CTAC has come in with the,
Yeah.
allowing you to have this art show. I mean, it's great, it's a win-win, because
Sure.
they're getting to show off the work of a very talented local artist, which is something they really promote.
yeah,
And then it's also giving you the opportunity to kind of kick off
Yeah,
this
absolutely.
fundraising for the ranch that you guys want
Yeah.
to
And
start.
in the short term, like I said, we're here to help kids, so we're gonna continue to help kids, until we have the facility open, then we can open a lot, but like, even if we can only help a few now,
Mhm.
that's what we're gonna do.
Right.
We're gonna help as many kids as we can
Mhm.
for as long as we can.
Mhm.
That's what both Stephanie and I, that's our passion. I mean, we're really committed to it, so.
That's awesome. I am very excited. I'm excited for the show. I'm excited for the potential of the ranch. I mean, those are the kinds of things that, I mean, I've always, I just have a heart for kids. I just do. And I'm just knowing that there are people who are just willing to devote themselves to creating this kind of a place for kiddos who just don't have anything else. They
There
don't
is
have another place. And knowing that especially that you're specifically looking at that very crucial point in their time
Yeah.
of recovery where it's just beginning.
Right.
And they're at a crossroads.
Right.
And what's gonna happen next really depends on
Right.
that window.
One of the ways we see helping greater amount of kids is trying to get some sort of youth center, or some sort of place where we can work with larger groups of kids to help more kids,
Mhm.
So that's, we're trying to find the way to grow bigger,
Mhm.
and not limit ourselves to saying, we're gonna wait until we have enough money to do the ranch itself. Like, we're gonna keep on moving, because we just need to help more kids.
Right,
We need to have a place to help more kids.
right.
We need to have a venue, an area, a place to, to work with these kids. And we need to have people that can work with them, and we're really on a mission to find that.
Yeah.
And I've been blessed with finding all sorts of like local people, like the folks at CTAC have been amazing in supporting us. Darcy's been an absolute force in helping me get my stuff together, and has had the world of patience with me.
She's great.
Just pulling this all together,
Yeah.
and it's been great for me to meet all these folks in the community. Because I'm still a relative newcomer.
Right,
Apparently,
yeah.
you're like a newcomer in Duncan, even if you're here for like 20 years.
Well,
You're still,
I've been here for over 30 years. I'm still
a new
I wasn't born and raised in Duncan, so, I mean, it's one of those things,
Yeah.
but it's okay. They
Yeah.
they take us in.
Yo, absolutely.
They take us-
I've never felt more welcome anywhere in my life
That's
than
awesome.
here. It's been amazing. Yeah, so we've got a lot of work to do, to help kids, but like they say, if you love what you do, you're never working.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, I'm so glad you came on Trail Talk today. I'm super excited. We haven't shown his pieces that he brought yet. So cameraman Emery is moving that over. Yeah, look up a little bit there. Emery, you've decapitated Johnny Cash there. Okay, there we
There's
go.
Johnny Cash. So that's
Look at
one of
that.
the ones that's gonna be on auction the last night, February 22nd. That piece is gonna be.
You've seen it first right here on Trail Talk.
I painted that this weekend, so you literally are the first to see
All
it.
right, here you go, people. The very first to see this. This is one of two pieces that will be auctioned off only on February 22nd.
Yes, ma'am,
At
exactly.
the closing reception of the show. And then tell us about this piece, because I do love it so much.
So this bottom one's out of the private collection. I painted this for my
Zoom
fiance,
out just a little
Stephanie.
bit.
So this is literally
you
about my move, like me meeting Stephanie. We met at an intervention training in New York City, and which I've spoken to her every day since I met her.
Wow,
And
wow.
that
That's awesome.
painting is the New York City skyline merging into my interpretation of an Oklahoma skyline, which is a bunch of cowboys and oil wells.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, we got the
That was-
what's going out
yeah.
there.
But yeah, just something abstract that we did. I painted this for Steph, and it's in our living room. But you had asked for me to bring a couple pieces
I
down,
did.
and I was like, well, they're all in the gallery, right? I was like,
No, I just think it's great for people just to get, if they've never seen your
Yeah.
work, just to kind of get a little bit of an idea of,
Absolutely.
kind of what your style is. I have a feeling the wildflowers are amazing.
Yeah, they're pretty cool. It's a
I-
very different style. I mean, well, I hope to see you there, but you're gonna notice that there's several different styles going on. Where I think most people are like, this is all the same artist. And that's one of the things that I love about my art
Yeah.
is, people are like, well, this is something completely different.
Yeah, for sure.
But that's how you keep growing. as
That's
an artist.
right, that's
you know?
right. You just, and you change your experiences in life, where you live,
Yeah,
the people in your life, your career,
yeah.
all those things change, and so you have a new perspective, you have new inspiration, so.
Muhammad Ali once said, the man who sees the world the same at 50 as he did when he was 20 has wasted 30 years.
Oh, that's profound.
Yeah.
That's a good word from Muhammad Ali
Yeah.
right there, isn't
Yeah,
it?
but yeah.
For sure.
Him and Bob Ross, go figure.
Well, that's merging your two passions, sports and art. You just
Yeah.
merge them with
Absolutely.
across. That's awesome. Well, I think it's great. We love and we are supporting you guys.
Oh, thank you so much.
Really, and as progress moves along, I hope that you and or Stephanie will be back on Trail Talk
Oh,
and
we
tell us
definitely-
what's going on next.
I can't wait. I can't wait
Okay.
to have more news to report.
Awesome, that's great. Well, when we sign off, we always say happy trails.
Okay.
So Steve, thank you so much for being
All
our
right.
guest today. We'll see you guys tomorrow with a special lesson about the Oklahoma State flag. It will
that's
be
cool.
riveting. It's pretty interesting. I learned
Yeah.
a lot. So can't wait to share it with you guys. We'll see you tomorrow. Ready? Yeah.
Happy trails.